Hey everyone, it is Mark Zielinski, and welcome to another episode of the Mantic Universe podcast. Today's I'm up short, and I am joined by Chris today. How's it going, Chris?
Hello, Mark. Very well, my friend. Thank you.
It's been a while since we've been on the airwaves together. I'm excited to chat.
Oh, 100%, bud.
Absolutely. And the two of us have a very special guest today, and it is Mr. Alex Gordon from Mantic Games. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, Mark. I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Very happy to be appearing on MUP for the first time ever. And really looking forward to chatting to you guys today.
There you go. Well, hopefully this is the first of many appearances for you here on the show. But everybody's sitting there listening. Alex Gordon, who is this guy? So can you introduce yourself to the MUP audience?
Absolutely, Mark. Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone listening. My name's Alex. I'm the new communications manager at Mantic since just a couple of months ago. I'm British originally, as you can hear from my accent. I've actually been living and working in Germany for quite some time, and the Mantic job for me is not only a very exciting move professionally, but it's also a step towards moving back to my home country. So I've actually been kind of working for Mantic remotely for my first couple of months and hopping over to Nottingham occasionally, but my wife and I will be moving permanently, and actually that's happening at the end of the month, so we're a little bit stressed out about it. And as I'm sitting talking to you guys now in the background, I mean, you can't see it, but we're packing everything up in boxes and getting ready to move to Nottingham soon.
Oh, very, very cool. So, we're not using StreamYard to record today, so you won't be able to see this, dear listener. So, very, very cool. So, it's been a couple months since you've been with Mantic, and I'm seeing that you're putting up some blog posts and things like that on the news website. So, you're slowly chipping in and getting integrated into the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been really enjoying everything so far. You know, the role that I'm going to be working in, it's quite a multifaceted one. As you mentioned already, I've been writing blogs and writing some of the newsletters and this kind of thing, but also, you know, working on other topics in the background as well. And it's very, very early days yet. I only started in December, and, you know, with the Christmas holidays in the middle factored in, I mean, it's still only really been sort of 6 or 7 weeks that I've been in the job. So very happy to be at Mantic. Looking forward to everything that's coming up. I think as Mantic, we have a very exciting and very busy 2026 ahead of us. And honestly, I'm just like, it's a really exciting opportunity. It is a really exciting opportunity for me. And looking forward to kind of getting my teeth into it as we go forward. Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you like, I can maybe kind of share my gamer history, the gamer origin story, you know, as it were. I've been a big fan of the miniature wargaming hobby since a pretty young age. I think for me, Space Crusade, if you guys remember that one, it was the kind of Warhammer 40k equivalent of Hero Quest. I think it came out back in the early 90s. I'm a similar age to you, Chris. As you know, I'm a child of the early 80s, so kind of around that kind of 90s period was when I got into everything. Space Crusade was very much the kind of the gateway for me. I went on from there. And I played, I really went into kind of all the GW stuff. You know, as you remember, there was lots coming out back in the 90s. I love both the fantasy and the sci-fi side of things. I think probably the games I played the most as a teenager were Warhammer 40k 3rd edition, which, really enjoyed. And also Wartime as well. Still have a special place in my heart for Wartime now. One thing I'd say as well is that... I always kind of wanted to play Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but I think for me as a teenager, actually collecting and painting a full army for Warhammer Fantasy Battle was a bit too much of a task, and I never quite managed to get there. You know, I had like a few units of an army painted, but I never quite, just wasn't able to follow through with all the miniatures that would have required. Anyway, I was really into it for throughout the 90s. I think then, I followed a pattern that I'm sure will be very familiar to a lot of listeners, where once I went to university and kind of got into my 20s, I dropped out of the hobby for a while. I think, that's just a time in your life where for a lot of people, you have other priorities, and, I was moving around a lot as well. And I think this hobby is one where it's easier to do it if you're kind of stable and you have a space set up and you have space to store all your stuff. And I think in my 20s, university, after university, moving around a lot. But I never really fell out of love with it, and again, I think that's probably familiar for a lot of people. Even when I wasn't doing it in my 20s, I think it was always still there in the back of my mind, and I always missed it on some level. So fast forward to kind of mid 30s, and I think we're talking about 2017, 2018 now. I just had a hankering to get back into the hobby, and I came back and I started looking at stuff. And that was when I discovered Mantic. I think back in the 90s, Chris, I'm sure it's the same for you. You remember kind of back in the 90s, it was like GW were kind of the only people really doing this kind of thing. And I think when I went away and then came back for a while, when I came back, I noticed that the industry seemed to have changed a lot, and there were a lot more other companies out there, a lot of alternatives on the market. I think I naturally gravitated towards Mantic. Mantic to me just had a bit of a spark that I could recognize. I think I felt like what had captured my imagination about the hobby back in the 90s, back when I was a kid, it felt like Mantic sort of had that kind of same spirit, and they were still sort of doing a similar kind of thing to what I had loved in the 90s. So yeah, naturally gravitated towards Mantic, started with Dungeon Saga actually, and I'm not talking Dungeon Saga Origins. It was the original Dungeon Saga. So yeah, as I said, 2017, 18, discovered that, bought it, started to paint the models. I think at that point as well, something pretty significant happened for me in that I was able to get my better half into it as well. My then girlfriend, now wife, she had never even heard of miniature gaming at all before. She didn't even know that such a thing existed. But I showed her the models, and I mean, she's quite artsy herself, and she'd done a lot of painting and things in the past. So when I showed her this, she was like, oh yeah, okay, if you're going to be painting the models, I'm up for getting into that as well. So we ended up painting up the entire set of Dungeon Saga together. And that was like a really, really, a real lot of fun, a very nice thing to do as a couple. And I think from that point onwards, I had kind of always have a built-in gaming partner at home, which is a really nice position to be in. And I think, yeah, you mentioned Kings of War. Sorry, I'm giving a pretty long version of my story now. I hope that's okay. But from Dungeon Saga, at that point, we were very much into the Mantic, the Mantic sphere, as it were. And I think, as I mentioned with Warhammer Fantasy earlier, I always felt like I had a bit of unfinished business there. And I always felt like this hankering to play like a proper fantasy war game. Now, of course, by this point, I've discovered Mantic, and I've discovered that they have a game called Kings of War. So really, really keen to play Kings of War. But the biggest thing that was holding me back was just a bit of lack of space. At this point in my life, I was living in Frankfurt, living in a pretty small apartment. And I thought, I looked at Kings of War and I thought, I really want to play that. But even if I can be disciplined enough to paint up an army for it, we just don't have the space in our apartment. We don't have space for a 6x4 gaming table with the best will in the world. So I was a bit sad, and I sort of almost gave up on the idea. But then I discovered the whole concept of playing Kings of War in 10mm scale, which I know on the Mutt podcast can be a bit of a contentious topic. But
only for one of us,
I think,
Alex. Only for one of us.
Yeah,
I don't know what you mean.
No, that's a great observation, Mark. And as you were about to hear, I'm very much on your side and on Clem's side of this debate, and Chris is out on his own, being Billy No Mates in the corner. But yeah,
I'm used to it.
So yeah, I think for me there was a big turning point was I watched a video. It was a chap called Luke who had a company called Geek Gaming Scenics, and he used to do YouTube. I think he quit YouTube now, but he did a great video probably around the kind of the pandemic kind of time where he talked about essentially shrinking Kings of War down to 10mm scale. And I watched that and it was really inspiring. And I suddenly thought, hey, if I'm going to be playing on a 3x2 rather than a 6x4, then this suddenly looks a lot more doable. So yeah, kind of, went from there. That was about 2021. And as I mentioned, by this point, I'd got my partner into the hobby as well. So we both agreed, let's do this. And I painted up a 10mm army of orcs, and she painted up a 10mm army of elves. And we started playing Kings of War together. And we've never looked back since. I absolutely love Kings of War. Ended up roping in a few friends into the 10mm side of things so that we had a few other people to play with. We were happily doing that for a few years. And then at some point, I think actually listening to the Mantic Universe podcast and meant Chris occasionally mentioning, that he was living kind of near Frankfurt or somewhere close to Frankfurt. And I was like, that's awesome. We've been enjoying playing 10mm Kings of War at home with, just with us and our friends. But discovering actually through this podcast that there was a community of people in Frankfurt playing full-size Kings of War was really exciting. And I remember, Chris, I sent you an email and I was like, oh, I'm just I'm a listener of the podcast and I'm living in Frankfurt and I understand you've got a bit of a gaming group going and I'd love to join in. And then, I think that was back in 2024 and we sort of went from there, didn't we, Chris? And in the end, I joined the Frankfurt Kings group playing at Quest Hub on a Tuesday night. And I started building my first 28mm Kings of War army. That's my potted history as a gamer and how I've kind of come to the point I'm at now where we're, loving Kings of War. I do love the sci-fi side of things as well. We've played Dead Zone. I really like Dead Zone. I also actually, before I worked for Mantic, I backed the Epic Warpath Kickstarter as well. I thought, that looks amazing. Definitely want to get involved in that. So essentially, really a big fan of, miniature wargaming in general, but especially the games that Mantic put out on both the fantasy and the sci-fi side of things. Sorry, I've rambled for a little bit there, but I would ask, Chris, do you have a question or a comment you wanted to add on there?
No, not at all. I'm just so delighted you sent me that email saying, hey, Chris, are you in the Frankfurt area? And we went from there. And we ended up going for a beer together in the Brewdog pub in Frankfurt. And we sort of went, this has worked really well. We must do this again. And then as we were leaving, the manager told us we're closing next week. So, yes. And of course, Mariana also did her 28mm army. So you picked Forces of the Abyss. She picked the Northern Alliance. And I've got to say, for our 750 points ambush events, you've both won Best Painted. And obviously, we've mentioned it on the pod before, Alex, but I think the first time you played, or one of the times you played, you lost all your games. And then the next one, you won the whole thing. And I remember watching you get your final to win the tournament, and you could cut the tension with a knife. And it was very exciting. And I'll be honest, it's bittersweet you and Mariana are going to the UK. Obviously, I'm so happy for you. But at the same time, obviously, I'm gonna miss seeing you so often. I mean, we'll it's just the start of our friendship. I'm certain of that. But it's the Hawk the Slayer movie nights will have to be a little bit less often. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And you've become a really good friend. I can't really believe that we only met each other in 2024, actually, because I feel like we've become really good friends. It's been such a pleasure joining. I mean, and that's the thing for me. I think I've always been, even since back in the 90s, mostly someone who just plays these games kind of at home with friends. I'd never really been part of a wider community before. And joining the Kings of Frankfurt community, which I know you've been the driving force at setting that up. And I think you've done a great thing there because it's a lovely group of people. We have so much fun when we go along and play on Tuesday night. like you say, with the 750 ambush has been a fantastic way of kind of, I mean, for us, we weren't new to Kings as a game because we'd been playing in 10mm, but it was a great way of kind of dipping our toe into the 28mm side of things. Have really enjoyed those ambush tournaments. I would just give a quick shout out at this point to Trent Soseby, if he's listening to this at all. That was a great game in that second tournament when we played in the final. One of the most fun and, as you say, tense games of Kings of War I've ever had.
And he had a filthy list. He had a filthy undead list. It should be said, buddy, you did so well.
Well, your words, not mine. I won't comment on Trent's list, but he was an absolute gentleman to play against. Real pleasure. And yeah, so we are leaving Frankfurt. We're moving to Nottingham. Very exciting step because it's going to work. Moving to work for Mantic is like a dream come true for me. And yeah, we are going to miss Frankfurt. We're going to miss the Kings of Frankfurt. We're going to miss the movie nights and the going out for beers with you, Chris. And as one chapter ends, another begins, I guess.
I'm just going to throw one sentence in there and just say on the record, thanks so much to Andrew for all his work he's done on the Frankfurt Kings, because initially I was really pushing everything, but actually for a long time now, the person pushing it most has been Andrew. So Andrew, thank you so much if you're listening to this, buddy. Mark.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I was just going to say, you guys know Trent Soseby? That's wild. I know Trent
we do.
too.
He is such a lovely guy.
He's wonderful.
Man.
He's disappeared from the scene, but my gosh.
Yeah. Life reasons, had his baby, etc. Yeah, he was living in Germany. He's gone back to the US now, him and his wife, but they are the nicest people you could hope to meet. And yes, Trent is a wonderful guy. Yeah, absolutely wonderful guy.
Yeah, I got to play him at Adepticon. And I chat with him on the odd. So, Trent, if you're listening, cheers, buddy. So,
yeah,
it's been a while since I've heard your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah, I just wanted to say that was funny for me as well, because, as well as listening to Mantic Universe podcast, I've been listening to Countercharge since I got into Kings of War, really. And I think Trent's been on Countercharge a few times. So when we were having a Frankfurt ambush tournament and it turns up and it's like, who am I playing next? And it turned out to be him. It was really fun. It felt like I was meeting a celebrity on some level. I was like, I've heard you talk on Countercharge. That's great. So yeah, kind of small world in that sense, I suppose. But, just very nice to be part of that community and to meet people where you're like, I've heard this person's name, but never met them before. That's a really, really nice thing to have, I think. And Kings of War has that and a lot of that within the community.
Met so many wonderful people playing this silly game. It's incredible. Sorry, Mark, go for it.
I agree. The community is just awesome with Kings of War. It's really the highlight, I think, of the game. Is the community is fantastic.
Great. So, Alex, I think we've got a sense of who you are. And obviously, I think the most important question now is, what do you think of Hawk the Slayer?
Yeah, absolutely the most important question, Chris. And especially it's like Hawk the Slayer on Laserdisc, right? That would be the real thing to talk about for the MUP podcast.
You know me so well.
I think, though, probably the talking about the Kings of War community there is a nice opportunity to segue over into the other topic that we wanted to talk about today. And that's, a little bit more about what I'm going to be doing at Mantic. And I would like to just talk about the Slow Grow Challenge initiative that we're getting started. I think you guys, Mark, you were asking me just before we came on air about what my role at Mantic's going to be. And, one thing I would want to say as well is just that I don't think I'm intended to be a like-for-like replacement for Andy, who left last year. I'm not kind of a videographer, so to speak. I'm not like a YouTuber or anything like those skills that Andy brought to the table. It's not like I kind of replicate those exactly. I think in terms of what my role is going to be, Ronnie's very much given me a brief of just really to boil it down. My main goal is to spread the word about all the cool and exciting things that Mantic are doing, and to make sure that, when Mantic are doing something fun, that people know about it. And I think, that's a simple goal. Obviously, not necessarily easy to achieve it. And it means, I'll be working on kind of lots of different things. Some of the time I'll be more visible, for example, coming on this podcast. Some of the time, a lot of the work I'll be doing will be more in the background. But overall, yeah, it's kind of just generating that buzz and that excitement about what Mantic are doing, making sure that, Mantic's communications are kind of, joined up, and that we're speaking to the right audiences on the right channels and those kinds of things. And I think also part of that is shining a spotlight on cool things that are already happening in the community. You guys might have seen recently did a 2-part blog post where we highlighted Stefan, Stefan from Stuttgart, part of the Gentleman's Dice Club. We highlighted his Zakali army and did a bit of an interview with him. So that's the kind of thing, like I very much want to do more content like that. And then I think, a third part of the brief as well is just to try and make sure that Mantic are also reaching new people. I think the committed customer base, like player base that Mantic has already is one of its great strengths. And, of course, from a business perspective, making sure that you're always communicating with your existing players is really important. But I think that's the other challenge to tackle is to make sure that Mantic stuff gets in front of new people and in front of new eyeballs as well. So kind of all of those things together, I'd say that's going to be my job. That's the brief Ronnie's given me. It is very early days, and I would ask everyone, please be patient with me. I'm coming in and I'm kind of looking at everything, and I'm going to be doing my best. So, please be patient with me. But yeah, so that's that. And one example of the kind of thing I'm working on is this Slow Grow initiative. At the time we're recording this, the first blog post about it has already gone live. So if people want to find out all the details, they can go and have a look on the Mantic blog. I think even, to be honest, by the time this comes out, maybe we'll have a couple of episodes live. But essentially what we're doing is the goal is to build a 2,000-point Kings of War army over the course of 24 weeks. And we're splitting those 24 weeks into 4 stages of 6 weeks each. And in each of those 6-week stages, the goal is to paint about 500 points worth of models. So it's very much a kind of, you can start from zero, and you can, in a reasonable time frame, go from not having an army to having a fully painted, sizable Kings of War army. And the idea is to just show that army building task, which I think can seem a bit intimidating for people, that, to show kind of, if we can do it, anyone can do it. And it can be done in bite-sized chunks. Each of those 6 weeks can be it's like a self-contained hobby goal in its own right. So rather than thinking of it as one massive project, which seems intimidating, and you think, oh, I'll never be able to achieve that, it's more like, let's think about it as 4 smaller projects. And at the end of it, those all add up, and then you've gone from nothing to having a sizable army.
I'm Ronnie Renton. So much universe, so little time.
I'm Brandon Rossbond of Winged Hussar Publishing. So much universe, so little time.
Well, that sounds very, very cool. And the thing I really like about it is that as you broke it up in chunks, you've also can do something different with the army that you're building. So you can start with champions, or you can start with a 500-point ambush army, and everybody knows I love 500-point ambush armies. But then you can play a game. And actually, after stage 1, everyone can see why I love 500-point Kings of War so much. But, or play champions. And I love that. And I actually put this up on the Champions Fanatics page because, for us over there, it's a 6-week project just to get your Champions company painted and up on the table. So I think that dogtails perfect with that. And then, if you want to take it further, you can join in with the 24-month project and, end up with a 2,000-point army. So, but I love it. You go 500 points, 1,000 points, 1,500, and then finally 2,000. So how did you pick 2,000? Is that the standard tournament size in the UK? way, or, you know?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And I'll come back to the question about 2000, but just wanted to say, really happy to hear what you just said there. And for me personally, I like small points games as well, you know. And again, like we talked about just now, in the Frankfurt Kings of War group, we've done a lot of kind of 750 point ambush in the last year. And it's a lot of fun, you know, it's a lot of fun in its own right. Of course, Kings of War played at bigger points levels is an amazing spectacle on the table. And, you know, and the way Kings of War is designed, I think as well, even at bigger points levels, it still plays very quick and it's clean. But yeah, I think, like you said, breaking it up into those smaller chunks, that's one of the advantages of it, where not only is it kind of easier and it feels more achievable from a hobby perspective, but as you said, from a gaming perspective, you can just start playing. You know, you complete that first 6 weeks and you've got something painted up and you can already start playing with it. So then while you're enjoying continuing on the hobby journey, and it's like, right, okay, what am I going to paint next? But at the same time, on the side, you're already playing games with what you've painted. As well, you hit on that nicely, and I thank you, Mark, because I'd kind of forgotten to mention it, but that is one of the points of the Slow Grow, is we want to show that kind of there's multiple routes into Kings of War at the moment. You know, if you want, you can, because Champions exists, you can start this Slow Grow in stage 1 by actually just choosing a Champions company box and painting that. Or, you know, and for, I know at the moment that not every faction in Kings of War has a Champions box. So you don't have to start with a Champions box. You can. If you want to collect a faction that doesn't yet have a Champions box, you can also just start with one of the other kind of, you know, like a battalion box or an army box, for example. Start, you know, with your first sort of 500 points and you can go straight into Kings of War that way. But basically, there's those two different ways of getting started, and either of them are equally valid. Then to answer your question about 2000, I don't know. I think, again, because the new edition is out, from what I understand, you know, from what I understand, tournament size will probably take a little while for the community to find what they feel like is the right points level for the new edition. Certainly with us choosing 2000 for the Slow Grow, it's not, please, you know, do not, I don't want anyone to misunderstand that or interpret it as like, this is Mantic saying officially 2000 points is the level to play Kings of War at. Not at all. To be honest, it was more practical than that. It was like, we wanted the Slow Grow to lead nicely into the summer campaign, which will be coming up. You know, we've run, or Mantic have run campaigns like this in the past, where you play and you can upload your results to a website and you have the chance to kind of influence the fate of Panathor. So it was like, just looking at the timeline that we had available, it was kind of like, well, what would be an achievable size army to build in that? And I think 2000 is nice because it is just that, it's 500 times 4. I think that is very doable, even for beginner hobbyists in that 24-week time frame. And yeah, you know, one thing I'd say is, like, we're not telling anyone that they need to stop at 2000. You know, if you want to go on, join us on the Slow Grow, follow along with the progress, and by the summer you'll have 2000 points. But it doesn't mean, you know, is an army ever truly finished, right? Like, it doesn't mean you need to stop at 2000. Once you've built 2000, why not go on and take it up to 2300 or 2500 or whatever, you know, whatever points level you want to do. I'm going to be doing Trident Realm myself for the Slow Grow. And yeah, I'll do 2000 by summer, but I probably won't stop there. I'll probably keep expanding that Trident Realm army more in the future.
I think we've hit on one of the key points of doing this, is that, you know, if I think about locally in Frankfurt, when I started trying to get people into Kings of War, it was kind of, okay, right, now you've enjoyed your test game. That was a lot of fun. Now spend a load of money on 2,300 points and I'll see you in roughly a year when you've finished, right? And that person goes to the dark side of the moon and they rarely come back again. Right. Whereas what we're talking about in the Slow Grow is, hey, start with a Champions box, start with, I know ambush boxes are off the website at the moment, but start with something achievable. And we're playing 750 points of ambush. We're playing champions, whatever low level points. So you're at quite an early stage. Bear in mind, there's multi-basing, there's all sorts of things to help you out. You're having fun with the game at a very early stage. The fun is not in 12 months, 6 months time when you've done absolutely everything there is to do. You're going to get in and start enjoying yourselves and be, oh, great, I wonder how this unit of cavalry are going to play when I finish that up while you're working on other things.
Yeah, exactly, Chris, exactly. And again, going back to kind of my story where, like I mentioned, as a teenager, I would have liked to play Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but I just kind of couldn't quite make it happen. I think that's also maybe where I stalled a little bit, where somehow, looking back, I probably had in my head that, whatever it was, probably 2,000 points back then as well for that game. It was almost like I need to paint all of that before I can even start playing. And it's like, that's just not actually true at all. But sometimes it's kind of, unless someone points that out to you, you don't realize it, So exactly, I think back on my Warhammer Dwarf army, and I was there, I probably only got about 3 or 4 units painted in the end. And it felt like, oh, well, I'm so far away from actually having a full army, and I'm so far away from actually being able to play the game. And at some point you get a bit disheartened with that and you lose motivation. And I think it's exactly really everything you just said, Chris. With this slow grow, we really want to show, you don't have to paint hundreds and hundreds of models before you can play a game of Kings of War. You can start with champions or you can start with ambush. They're both good, fun experiences. But the point is, once you have those first 3 or 4 units painted, you can already start playing. And usually, I think Kings of War is such a good game. Once you actually start playing it, well, most people who play it really like it. And then at that point, you'll keep your motivation up because you'll be excited to be like, okay, now I'm going to add these next units to my army and these next units. So yeah, exactly. And for the Slow Grow Challenge, 4 of us at Mantic are going to be doing it. So myself and 3 of the other guys. So please keep an eye on the blog for that. We're going to be posting our hobby progress as we go. But we really, really want people in the community to jump on board as well, to get involved, to paint their armies along with us, share their progress. And it's kind of very much a sense of like, so this year we are going on a journey and we want as many people as possible to come along with us.
No, this sounds fantastic, buddy. I mean, as you know, I'm already in, and spoiler alert, dear listener, I have made a decent start, shall we say, on my slow grow. But I've still got some units to do, so But I've gone through Zerkali, and I'm enjoying doing them.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. I was going to say, from what I've seen, from what you've posted online, you've pretty much already got 750 points painted. So I think that means you need to aim for 2,750 by the summer.
I was going to say 2 armies. So you should finish this Zerkali and then do another one so you can catch up.
To be fair, though, I mean, I'm pretty quick. But if you compare me to Stefan, Stefan just, he's untouchable. He's the GOAT. I think the cool kids say he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying doing my Zerkali. I went to Quest Hub and got all new basing stuff. I've done kind of a Chinesey kind of a theme with some Japanese elements, I suppose. But I've really enjoyed doing it. It's very different from my Trident Realm army, which is my one true love, which I did last year. Or redid. I'd already, that was my second Trident Realm army. I basically started the whole thing again and redid it. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying doing my Zerkali. I've just finished a horde of the Yan, or what are they called? The ones that throw the discs. So that's cool. So yeah, it's just a fun. It's very, very different. So in terms of the colours and everything and the basing, as I said, it's just a very different. And I think I will get a board. I'll make a board. I've already had some ideas as well for making a board for it. Sadly, I won't be at Clash of Kings this year because I'm going to an Antares Lives event in a month, dear listener. But yes, I'm enjoying doing a Kings of War army is really fun. There's tons of little tricks and tips to make it easier that new players just need to leverage us old hands to learn So it's not just one seemingly impossible task like Alex and his dwarves that you see, well, particularly with things like multi-basing, ambush, champions. It's actually a really fun experience overall. And it's not just a massive slog to get it finished. It's a really rewarding process. And you can have fun early. So, dear listener, if you're listening to this and you're new to Kings of War, it's a great time to be joining. Now is the time. And if you're an older listener, come and start a new army. Why not? It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. And, new rules, etc. Exciting.
Absolutely, Chris. And I would add on to that as well. If you're a quote-unquote old listener, if you're an existing player, great. I mean, of course, do start a new army of your own, but also bring a friend, tell friends about it. We really hope that the Slow Grow can be a bit of a, give a bit of impetus for the community to grow and for new people to come on board. And, Mantic will do our best to kind of reach new people directly, but word of mouth is always really powerful. And, one thing I've said before is I think, what do we as Kings of War players all have in common is that we'd all love to have more people to play Kings of War with. So this is very much the Slow Grow. It's very much intended to also kind of help the existing community go out there, and if you know someone who is kind of interested in Kings of War, it's go out there, bring them on board, and it's kind of a hopefully an easier and a gentler and a more achievable way of getting into it, as opposed to that kind of thinking, oh yeah, I've got to paint a whole army in one go. I want to throw it over to you, Mark, quickly actually, because Chris already mentioned his new army. I was like, will you be coming on board with us for the Slow Grow? And if so, what army do you have in mind?
Absolutely. I'll be joining along, and I was just thinking about what I was going to be doing. Originally, I was thinking Zerkali, but as we're having this conversation, I was just thinking, there's other ways to participate as well going along. Like, hey, if you want to paint 4 champions companies, and that way you can teach other players how to play, because, you'll have the 4 different companies, or you could do 4 500-point, ambush armies, or you could have a couple of, do some 750-point ambush armies, because that's a popular points level that was around. We haven't settled one for this edition yet, but there's different ways to do it if you don't want to slog all the way to 2,000, that you can participate. And when the summer campaign comes, and again, this is kind of a feeder for the summer campaign, is that you're going to have armies to share with other people that they can play with and inspire them to get into the Slow Grow. Because I do believe, Alex, that we made provisions for people jumping in late, correct?
Yeah, absolutely right, Mark, and that is correct. I mean, that was one of the things when we were putting together the idea for the Slow Grow. We as Team Mantic will be blogging about it, and we're starting round about now, and we have this timeline. And if anyone wants to see the dates, the milestone date for each of the 4 stages, again, please go and check out that Slow Grow introduction blog article, because it's all in there. But absolutely, we understand, you got people like Chris who's already jumped in. He's already painted a big chunk of his army in 2026. Other people will probably come to it late, and maybe a friend will tell them about this in a month's time, and they'll be looking at all of this and thinking, oh no, now I'm behind. The message really is don't worry if you're early or late, it doesn't matter. All we really want is for people to participate. And if you end up, again, if you follow along exactly with what we're doing, you'll have a 2,000-point army. But like you said, Mark, if you'd rather do a couple, 2 1,000-point armies, or 4 champions companies, or whatever, or if you're late and maybe you only end up with 1,000 points, or a champions company and a little bit more on top, or whatever, all of that is perfectly valid for playing games and participating in the summer campaign when it comes around. So yeah, we don't want anyone to feel kind of in any way excluded. On the contrary, we want everyone to feel welcome to join in at their own pace and at a level that suits them.
And guys, to be honest, if someone who's never painted a model before, if in this 6 months they join us and they do one champions box, that's an amazing achievement. And that's, let's be honest, that's way harder for them and way more important than if I do another 2,300 points army, right? As an experienced hobbyist who's done 10 Kings of War armies in the past, right? Someone just getting their first champions box done, that is such an incredible milestone. So, dear listener, if you're listening, don't be put off by the fact some people are doing more. It's the same thing as when you see other people, you know, let's say you see the Spanish guy Angel, you see his painting. There's no need to compare what you're doing to him, right? We're all on our hobby journeys, and you know, we can be proud of what we're doing. It doesn't necessarily mean we're the best hobbyist in the world. That's completely missing the point. It's just we're all painting by our own standards, and we're all different, and you know, we should all just enjoy and get the joy from what we're doing and what we're able to achieve right now. And we're all on a hobby journey. So, dear listener, please just join us and do it. You know, you don't have to paint 5,000 models like Stefan does in 6 minutes. You know, there's joy and happiness in this, and just come along and do it with us.
Yeah, I'm going to tag on to that because absolutely, and we've had a couple of posts about that, and the hobby intimidation is real. Okay, you know, you've got all those fantastic painters and things like that, and they give out the hobby awards and stuff like that. You know, don't worry about that. Okay, just don't worry about it. You know, your hobby is your hobby. You need to relax and enjoy it and have fun and relax from a hard day at work or from the stress of family or something else. You know, it is for you, and you decide if your models look cool or not. And if somebody decides that your models look cool, that's somebody you don't want to talk to again. So, you know, enjoy your hobby, have fun. You know, anything is better than putting gray models on the table, and take your time. And as everybody knows, my favorite phrase is, my favorite color is done. So just, you know, put it together, make it look cool, and, you know, have fun doing it and enjoy and join the community. This is a great community, very welcoming, and I don't think you'll have any problems. So if you're new to this at all and you're listening, please jump in and have a great time. You know, I'm sure we'll be talking about the Slow Grow on our Facebook page. I know I'm going to try keeping it up, going on the Champions Fanatics page as well. And so just have fun, jump in, the water's fine.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I fully agree with everything you just said. And, you know, like, I'm not an amazing painter. I'm a tabletop standard kind of painter. I try to make it so it looks nice. I try to make my miniatures so I'm happy with them, but I'm certainly not like a Golden Demon type painter. And I don't think anyone from Team Mantic that's going to be doing the challenge is really. Actually, like, indeed, we have a guy called Ross. He's also a new hire at Mantic, same as me. He's the new crowdfunding manager, and he comes from more of like a board game background, and he hasn't really done much miniature painting before. So he's essentially kind of a new person, and he's going to be one of the 4 that's going through on the blog. And that was great for us because we really wanted to show, look, you know, you could be brand new to this, but it's achievable. And the other 3 of us who are more experienced will kind of mentor him along. So that's what I'd love to see out there in the community as well, where essentially, if you are like an old hand at this, if you find a newcomer and kind of mentor them and help them through, give them hobby tips, all of that kind of stuff, you know, maybe guide them on the list building side of things, whatever it is, we'd love to see experienced players guiding along the new players. Before we end the episode, Mark, as well, I would just kind of like to give a bit of information about how people can get involved and share their progress. So essentially, like, the challenge is like, there's nothing, you don't need to go and sign up for it or anything like that. It's more just like, we're doing this. We know a lot of people in the community are going to be doing it. You know, you guys are on board. The Countercharge guys are on board, for example. We're doing it. Come along. And really, the way to get involved is just to start your army. And if you want to share pictures, we'd love to see them. There's a few different ways we encourage people to share. So firstly, if you wanted to post pictures on Facebook or Instagram, if you tag them with the hashtag, which is hashtag KOW Slow Grow 2026, then we'll be looking out for any pictures posted with that hashtag. Secondly, you can also use the Kings of War forum, kowforum.com, which I believe is run by Fred, who's the editor of this podcast. We'd love to see people starting kind of hobby threads on there, and just if you put like Kings of War Slow Grow in the title of your thread, we'll be keeping an eye on that forum as well, and we'll be watching along if people post threads there. And then thirdly, if you'd like to send your progress and pictures to us directly at Mantic, we've set up a mailbox especially for that. So the email address is kowslowgrow2026 at manticgames.com. So we'd love to hear from you directly, and show us what you're working on, show us your progress. We'd love to hear that. Just to set expectations, like, we probably won't be able to reply to those emails because we already receive a very high volume of emails, and I wouldn't want to promise that we can reply to everyone who sends us their pics there, but we certainly will read them all. And as the challenge progresses, 24 weeks is a fairly long time, but as we go through, we'll be looking at the things that people are sharing, and it's absolutely the intention to feature some of the community armies on our blog and our social channels as well. So it's not just, the blog won't just be about my hobby progress and the other guys at Mantic. We'd like to use it to really just spotlight, here's all the armies that the community are out there building as well.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to add to that, Chris. I'm going to ask everyone to, give us some pictures of your armies in action as you grow through the challenge. So, show us your small point games. Show us those ambush games in the first 12 weeks, 500 points, 1,000 points, and then building up. I think it would be great to see everybody having fun at those low points levels as well. Kings is a very diverse game, and it gets, for some people like myself, I love the small points, but I also go to tournaments. So, I play the big games too, and, I do okay. I think I was 3-3 at UK Clash this past year, so not too shabby. Of course, it was the Army, so thank you, Daniel. But I think it worked out very well. So, but I'd also encourage you, dear listener, to show us your games in progress. And, if you did happen to bring along a friend, that's a great way to showcase both armies and showing what the game is all about. Community and having fun, and, cool armies on the tabletop, which is great. And to bring it back a little bit, Alex, to one of your earlier points too, ambush is on a smaller table. So if you're having trouble, getting that larger point game, in your apartment or something like that, we play it. We used to play 500 on 4x4, but then we were allowed to play on 3x3s in third edition. So I'm kind of carrying that along, and conveniently a 3x3 surface fits on those 5x3 gaming tables that everybody has nowadays, the big fancy ones, and it gives you a foot of space on each side for all the components. It is the perfect size. It's to fit on your tabletop. It really is. So I would, if you've got one of those tables, you can also cover it up and leave your models on there, and the cats won't get to them. So, but I encourage you to definitely check it out and share your games with us as well. So I don't know, maybe we're going to do something here on the show here. Maybe we'll do a hobby hangout or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out as we go along. So, but it's an exciting time. And as you know, back in the misty past, we had the Countercharge Kings of War Army in a weekend spectacular. So, well, this isn't a weekend. It's going to be an entire 24-week period. So, but we got a long way to go. So join everybody on the journey, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you, Mark. I agree. This is the opposite of Army in a Weekend, I suppose. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what, Mantic Universe podcast listeners, what they get started on. Really looking forward to seeing the hobby progress. I mean, I'm genuinely excited to start a new army of my own. I'm a big fan of the new Trident Realm models, and I'm actually going to be starting with the Champions Company myself. I'll be starting with the Axel Tricklebrook Champions Company, and then expanding the army from there. So I'm excited to go on the journey. I'm excited for you guys to all come along with us. As you say, really encourage people to share their progress along the way. And we'll see how it goes. I think, it's 24 weeks is a fairly long time. And I'd love to come back on Mantic Universe podcast, maybe in a few months' time, when we can all talk about how far we've got with it, maybe.
Alex, we've had a great conversation today. I'm really looking forward to having you back. You have an open invitation. So whenever you feel the need to drop by, we're more than happy to have you. And very excited.
Thank you very much.
Back in the day when we started Mantic Radio, we had James Hewitt, and James was on all the time. So you can fill that slot. So what is old is new again. So it'll be great.
Yeah, that sounds great, Mark. Thank you. I've really enjoyed today. I really enjoyed meeting you for the first time. Enjoyed chatting to Chris, who is an old friend at this point. But yeah, it's been a really good conversation. Thank you for allowing me to come on and to kind of introduce myself. Thank you for allowing me to talk about the Slow Grow Challenge as well. And I would absolutely love to come on the podcast again in the future if you'll have me.
Sounds good. Like I said, you're always welcome. So, all right, folks. Well, hey, enjoy. I hope you come along with the Slow Grow with us, and it's going to be a great time, and we'll follow up. And, again, I'm looking forward to the information on the summer campaign. I think we've got champions coming up soon. I personally am looking forward to that Zerkali company because that's going to figure into my Slow Grow. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you for joining us today. And until next time, take care.